In the previous video about the Minoans, we talked about the myth of the Minotaur and how one archaeologist wound up in a Bosnian prison, only to later uncover the palace of an ancient and mysterious civilization that lay forgotten for 3,500 years. Now, we continue in his footsteps and discover what lies within the myths and legends that survived for over 5 millennia. There is a reason I mentioned the Bosnian prison yet again. If you remember, back in 1882, Evans was accused of helping radicals who wanted to overthrow Austrian rule in Bosnia. After being released, he went on to do his excavations on Crete. But in 1914, a radical group called Young Bosnia managed to assassinate the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It was a gunshot that echoed around the planet and ignited what was to become World War I. And our poor Evans was about to be torn from his archaeological works for the next 10 years. Eventually, at the end of World War I, Evans helped the Slavic countries in the Balkans, including Bosnia, unite in a new country that would become Yugoslavia. After that, in 1922, he was free to return to Crete and his villa. Oh yes, Evans built his own Minoan villa near the Knossos ruins, which he named after the daughter of King Minos, Villa Ariadne. But Ariadne wasn't Minos' only child. She also had a half-brother. His name was Minotaur. The legend says Minos was fighting with his brother over who would rule Crete, so he prayed to Poseidon to send him a magnificent white bull, as a sign that the gods endorse his rule. The god of the oceans answered his call, and a radiant white bull emerged from the frothy sea. But there was one stipulation. Minos had to sacrifice the bull back to Poseidon. Entranced with its beauty, the king decided to keep the magnificent animal and placed it in his herd. He then sacrificed another bull, hoping that Poseidon wouldn't notice this trickery. By now, you surely know you're not supposed to mess with Greek gods. So Poseidon, enraged by this betrayal, cursed Minos' wife Pasiphae with an insatiable passion for the bull. Yeah, the ancient Greeks really were weird sometimes. This is the point where two famous Greek myths start to intertwine. You see, Pasiphae yearned for the white bull so much that she instructed a master craftsman named Daedalus to help her. Daedalus crafted a wooden cow and wrapped it in cowhide. This enabled Pasiphae to get inside the contraption and quench her desire for the bull. But the problem is, she got pregnant. The result of this unnatural union was a creature that was part man and part bull. The Greeks called him Minotaur, which translates to the bull of Minos. Monstrous by looks and monstrous by appetite, the creature yearned for human flesh. So he had to be contained. Following the advice of the oracle at Delphi, Minos instructed Daedalus to construct a labyrinth for the beast. Then, tragedy struck. After Minos' son died in Athens under suspicious circumstances, the enraged king, who was left without an heir, started asking for a tribute in blood. So every 7 years the Athenians would send 7 virgin girls and 7 virgin boys, who were released in the Minotaur's maze to wait for a grisly death. Then one day, the son of the king of Athens, named Theseus, decided to kill the Minotaur and deliver his kingdom from this terrible debt. When Theseus arrived at Knossos, Minos' daughter Ariadne was smitten by the young hero. She begged Daedalus to tell her the secret to the labyrinth so she could see Theseus once again. The architect told her a trick, so she gave Theseus a ball of thread to attach to the entrance and carry inside. This way, if he managed to defeat the Minotaur, Theseus could find his way back. Enraged by this treachery, Minos threw Daedalus into the labyrinth together with his son, Icarus. But the genius devised a cunning plan. Using honey and feathers, he constructed wings for his son, Icarus. He instructed Icarus not to fly too high. But, exhilarated by this new ability, the boy soared, and soared, and soared, until the sun melted the honey, and he fell to his death. Unlike the account of the Minotaur, this myth is just a story. And like all good stories, it always portrays our own desires as well as flaws, in an attempt to teach us a lesson. As Evans pondered the ancient myths and struggled to decipher the tablets from Knossos, he embarked on yet another quest. He decided to restore the palace to its former glory. In the midst of a painstaking restoration, in 1926, Crete was hit by a powerful earthquake, and the archaeologist realized that this might have been the cause of the fall. of the Minoans.
A dull sound rose from the ground like the muffled roar of an angry bull. It is something to have heard with one's own ears, the bellowing of the bull beneath the earth.
This earthquake did not damage the restoration, but Evans contemplated that a similar event brought the end of this lost civilization. Almost a century later, scientists will somewhat confirm his story. Around 1600 BC, the island of Terra, now known as Santorini, imploded with a blast that was 100 times more devastating than a hydrogen bomb. A volcano erupted right beneath it, destroying the majority of the island and sending earthquakes and tsunamis throughout the Aegean. Terra is located just 75 miles from Crete. It is possible that a tsunami could have wiped out or at least severely damaged the Minoan navy. It was an opportune time for the enemies of the Minoans to attack. And, as the Minoan culture was at its end, the Mycenaeans started to rise. It was the dawn of a new era. Once again, we witnessed how myths and reality intertwine and complement each other. But there is yet one other myth to be considered: the myth of Atlantis. Was this place the original Atlantis that Plato was talking about? Or was Atlantis the amalgamation of different stories?
In this island of Atlantis had arisen a great and wonderful monarchy, which ruled the whole island as well as many others and parts of the mainland. But afterwards came a time of earthquakes and disasters. In one terrible day and night, Atlantis sank into the sea and vanished.
Some think Atlantis refers to the island of Terra, which really sunk beneath the ocean. Others think that the advanced civilization of Atlantis depicts the Minoans. In those times, witnessing a palace such as Knossos with running water and sewers must have been perceived as advanced science by common folk. This theory was conceived by Spyridon Marinatos. Marinatos excavated a villa at Amnisos, which was considered to be the port of Knossos. Due to beautiful frescoes, this came to be known as the Villa of the Lilies. There, he found evidence of a tsunami or a tidal wave. He found pumice there, as well as all over the island. Pumice is a kind of volcanic rock that is created when gas-rich lava touches water and instantly solidifies. This kind of rock could have only been brought to the island by a tidal wave or a tsunami. Most likely, the catastrophe that obliterated Terra. Marinatos was convinced that this tragedy was the same one described by Plato. Keep in mind that Plato lived hundreds of years after the Trojan War and 1,000 years after the actual cataclysm and the demise of the Minoans. The way Plato describes Atlantis eerily resembles what Evans found on Crete. Plato even claims the Atlanteans were obsessed with the mighty bull.
In the sanctuary of the city, bulls roamed at large. The princes hunted them with wooden staves and ropes, but with no weapons of iron. When the bull was captured, they brought him to a column and slew him over it, drenching the inscription with his blood.
That must have been a gory sight. But let's get back to our adventurous archaeologist. Even though Evans' work was remarkable, there is one important task he failed at. He was never able to decipher Linear A. However, the archaeologists discovered not one but 3 different scripts. They were Linear A, Linear B, and Cretan hieroglyphs. In 1936, Evans gave a lecture to school children. Little did he know that one of the attendees, 14-year-old Michael Ventris, would become obsessed and go on to decipher Linear B in 1952. The other 2 scripts remain a mystery to this day. Who knows, maybe with the help of modern technology and AI, in addition to seeing their faces at Knossos, we will be able to hear the voices of the Minoans. Who knows what secrets they have to tell? If I had to guess, I believe a lot of it would be about bulls. If you want to learn more about the Minoans, check out these amazing books by clicking the link in the description. Or just let me know in the comments, and I might do another video about Marinatis's discoveries on Terra, and if the Minoans were really the Atlanteans from Plato's accounts.